Good evening and welcome to the City of Boynton Beach City Commission meeting. Today is Tuesday, February 17th, 2026, and the time is 6 p.m. We will now turn to the city clerk for roll call.
Mayor Shelton.
Present.
Vice Mayor Hay.
Present.
Commissioner Cruz.
Present.
Commissioner Turkin.
Present.
Commissioner Kelly.
Here.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Maylee. Vice Mayor Hay will lead our invocation, and I will lead our Pledge of Allegiance tonight. Let's all stand for the invocation and the pledge, please.
Let us pray. Gracious and eternal God, we pause at this moment to acknowledge your presence and to give thanks. Thank you for the city of Boynton Beach, its rich history, its diverse people, and the shared hope we have for its future. We ask for your guidance tonight for our mayor, vice mayor, commissioners, city managers, staff, and all who serve this community. Grant us wisdom beyond knowledge, practice, patience beyond pressure, and courage to always choose what is just, fair, and right. May every discussion be marked by respect, every decision by integrity, and every action by a sincere desire to serve the common good. Bless the residents of this great city of 82,000 plus, from our children and seniors and our families, businesses and neighborhoods. We pray for safety in our streets, stability in our homes, and opportunity for all who call this city home. Help us to remember those who are struggling. Give us compassionate hearts that we seek solutions and not divisions. And as we conduct the business before us tonight, remind us that leadership is stewardship. May we listen carefully, speak thoroughly, and work together in unity, even when perspectives differ. Always mindful that our decisions impact real lives. We thank you for the privilege to serve, and we place this meeting in your hands. May your peace rest upon this chamber, and may your purpose guide our path forward. In humility and gratitude, we do pray, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. We are now moving on to the agenda approval, additions, deletions, and corrections. Let's begin on my left with Commissioner Turkin.
Nothing, Mayor, thank you.
Commissioner Kelly.
Nothing, Mayor.
Vice Mayor Hay.
Nothing for me.
And Commissioner
Me
Cruz.
neither. Thank you, Mayor.
Mayor,
Yes.
can we add a discussion item in reference to the scheduling of the new budgetary, the budgetary workshops that we discussed on the agenda review on Thursday? At the end, if that's fine.
Yep.
Okay, motion to approve as amended.
Second.
We have a motion to approve as amended, and we have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes unanimously. We will now move on to informational items by the members of the City Commission. Let's begin on my right with Commissioner Cruz
None for me, thank you.
and Vice Mayor Hay.
Yes, I do have a few items I'd like to acknowledge, if you will. Give me a moment here to bring it all up. First of all, I'd like to, for us to acknowledge the passing of Reverend Jesse Jackson, who was a giant in the faithful work that he's done for the world. He passed today, I believe it was at the age of 84. And he worked very closely with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., marching in movement and organizing communities and helping advance the struggle for civil rights. He was a giant in his own way. And I just wanted us to take a moment to acknowledge him and all the work, excuse me, that he has done. Also, the next one that I would like to acknowledge is a lady by the name of Gladys West. My iPad doesn't seem to want to work with me right now. Give me a second to pull that up. Go on to the next one and I'll come back.
Commissioner Turkin, do you have any announcements, any informational items?
No, thank you, Mayor.
And Commissioner Kelly?
No, Mayor, thank you.
Back on to you, Vice Mayor Hay. Take a moment.
Okay, you guys are fast.
She is not always our friend.
Okay, it's not, is it? Let me see here. Is this, if time, I hope I didn't delete it. Can I come back later?
Of course, you want to
Yeah.
do it?
Yeah, we'll do it
Whenever it
later.
pops back
Let's continue.
Okay. Next on the agenda is a presentation for the Boca Raton Bowl. Can I please have our city staff and our guests from the Boca Raton Bowl come up to make their presentation?
Good evening, and thanks for having us here.
Justin Johnson, Marketing and Outreach Manager for the City of Boynton Beach. Joining us tonight is Doug Mosley, the Executive Director of the Boca Raton Bowl, and Paige Kornblue, who is the Director of Marketing and Events. Do I have that? Coordinator. Boca Raton Bowl staff. Here, they will make a presentation
I'm not
for the
the only
good
one.
of the group.
By the way, it's now the Bush's Boca Raton Bowl of Beans.
Well, I didn't want to steal your thunder.
Do we have that video to be able to roll? Because when we came here, expressed our appreciation to you last year, I thought, don't want to do this the same way. So we have a special piece of video that we'd like to show you if that's available.
Okay.
I think it's on the Vice Mayor's tablet.
For welcoming us during our bowl week and assisting our team and staff during the week of practice and bowl preparation. Your support and hospitality made a big difference for our team throughout the Boca Raton Bowl. Our players and staff truly appreciated their time at your facility and the experiences they were able to have there. It meant a lot to them both on and off the field. Thank you for your partnership and for being such an important part of our big bowl game win. We want to send a sincere thank you to the
All of you.
Yep. And of course, that was Coach Brom. Y'all now stand 2-0. You won last year, now you've won again this year. So my other practice sites are all saying, whoa, wait a minute, we don't know, something's going on there at Boynton. We do have for each of you one of our logoed footballs and one of our Bush's Beans bucket hats that was given out to everybody that attended the game, where we had the world's biggest bowl of beans, per se. So
Awesome.
Justin, how do we want, just go ahead and take
Pass
them
them
up.
along.
I look like the one I had at the Dolphins game.
Up this way.
Paige, come around the other way, we've got the rest of them. Thank you. Thank you. Go.
Thank you, sir.
You're very welcome.
You guys want to take a recess?
All right. Hey, such a deal. All right.
Okay.
Great.
Yeah,
Match my tie.
it does match your tie.
And then if we could get the commissioners and Madam Mayor to come down for a quick photograph.
Oh, here's those other ones. I didn't know who you were giving me.
Oh, we wearing the hats? Where we going?
I'm not wearing that.
I'm wearing my hat.
I'm not wearing mine. I didn't know them, not my hair. We all need to bring our footballs?
Oh, we need to bring football? Can we bring the football?
Yeah.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
I am not.
I'm gonna tell you,
I love it.
Football field gets, is getting lots of good use.
and with the way your guys are handling it, you know, they've got the sports commission involved to hopefully bring some events in here and that. I really have a lot of respect for your staff that's taking care of that, these guys. They've been fantastic.
They are fantastic, I agree. Next December, we hope everyone comes.
Come on, Justin. Yeah, Justin, come in. Come on now. Good try. Yeah, there you go.
Make sure you get me, Sheila.
All right.
What's up, Jeff? Really enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
Absolutely, you're welcome. I'm glad it's, like I said, I'm glad it's getting good use.
Yeah, absolutely. These guys are marking it ahead.
That's good.
I'm good.
That has to be the funniest thing I've got since I've been here.
It's the best. Wait, this me?
I don't know, he makes bad luck to put your purse on the floor, but I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
Put that down there. Hope I don't forget.
Next on the agenda is a proclamation for 211 Awareness Month. The proclamation will be accepted by Elizabeth Burrows, 211 Director of Development and Community Relations. Okay, I'm going to read this in. Whereas 211 Palm Beach and Treasure Coast has responded to more than 3 million calls to the 211 helpline since its inception in 1971 and receives over 120,000 requests for help each year. And whereas 211's highly trained and accredited team continues to serve as frontline responders 24 hours a day, every day of the year, including times of disaster and great uncertainty. 211 provides free, confidential, and 24/7 access to life-saving crisis intervention, suicide prevention, emotional support, and community navigation services year-round. And whereas the mental health of many in our community is at risk due to challenges with health, addiction, and lack of basic needs such as housing, utility payments, food, and transportation, 211 team handles every request with compassion and empathy, de-escalating crisis situations, and helping people navigate community resources to overcome everyday struggles and life's darkest moments. And whereas 211 also offers specialized advocacy and support programs to groups who face a higher risk of crisis, including seniors, veterans, and first responders, and children with development delay and other special needs. And whereas 211 is also the regional responder for the National 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, the Florida Veterans Support Line, and other special projects designed to help people facing unique crisis situations. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Rebecca Shelton, hereby proclaim February 2026 as 211 Awareness Month in the city of Boynton Beach and urge all citizens to be aware that 211 is available by phone, text, email, or online chat 24 hours a day for anyone seeking help with everyday challenges or crisis situations. The 211 team also helps people connect with local resources for mental health counseling, substance abuse disorder, healthcare, employment, food, housing, daycare, legal services, and so much more. In witness whereof, I hereunto set my hand and cause the official seal of the city of Boynton Beach, Florida, to be affixed this 17th day of February, 2026. And this will be coming to you.
Thank you. If I can take just a moment to share a few words, I'm so appreciative of the entire commission for presenting us with this proclamation for acknowledging February as 211 Awareness Month. We find it necessary to take an entire month to remember that 211 is one of the only numbers that people need to remember whenever they are in need or experiencing crisis. As the proclamation stated, not only does our team answer the 211 line, but we also answer the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline here in Palm Beach County and the Treasure Coast. We serve a 5-county region, including Palm Beach County and the residents of Boynton Beach. Last year alone, our team answered about 48,000 requests for help from Palm Beach County residents, and about 1,200 of those were for suicide-related concerns. So the needs in our community remain great. Some of the top needs that we hear from individuals in Palm Beach County include housing, mental health and substance abuse disorder, and requests for utility assistance. And I'm sure that none of those would surprise you, because I'm sure you hear some of those same concerns from residents every day in your respective positions. So we are here to assist you, your teams, your residents, and whenever you need help, just call 211.
Okay, so where's the next one? Okay, the next proclamation is for the Lord's Place March to End Homelessness Awareness Day. This proclamation will be accepted by John Gilmore, Director of Men's Services at the Lord's Place. I will read the proclamation, and then you can speak, and then I'll come down. Does that sound good? Okay. Whereas homelessness is a serious social and economic issue impacting all levels of our society, the City of Boynton Beach and the Lord's Place recognize that all people deserve respect and a place to call home. And whereas the City of Boynton Beach and the Lord's Place are partners in providing that respect and pathway to a brighter future for men, women, and families who are homeless in our community. And whereas the City of Boynton Beach extends its appreciation to the Lord's Place for its leadership on this critical social issue and its wide array of successful programs and services changing the lives of the homeless one life at a time. And whereas the Lord's Place will hold its second annual March to End Homelessness on Friday, February 27th, 2026 at 2 p.m. at Centennial Square, the Lord's Place and the City of Boynton Beach recognize the many community members supporting the march, including the Honorable Ann Brown. Whereas the Lord's Place and the City of Boynton Beach applaud corporate partners, especially Searcy, Denny, Scarola, Barnhart, and Shipley, for taking time to care for the most vulnerable individuals and families living in Palm Beach County. And whereas the mission of the Lord's Place is to break the cycle of homelessness by providing innovative, compassionate, and effective services to men, women, and children in the community. Now, therefore, I, Rebecca Shelton, Mayor of the City of Boynton Beach, Florida, do hereby proclaim February 27th, 2026 as the Lord's Place March to End Homelessness Awareness Day. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the City of Boynton Beach, Florida, to be affixed at Boynton Beach, Florida, on the 17th day of February, 2026.
Mayor Shelton. I would like to thank Mayor Shelton.
Turn your mic on.
Here.
There you go.
I would like to thank you, Mayor Shelton, Vice Mayor, and the commissioners, and definitely the City of Boynton Beach. We're glad that you believe in the cause that the Lord's Place, what we are providing within Palm Beach County. My name is John Gilman. Of course, I'm the Director of Men's Services, and I also oversee our men's shelter right here in Boynton Beach, where we house over 50 men. Most of our men either returning citizens from Department of Corrections or Palm Beach Sheriff Office. Some are just homeless, some dealing with mental health. And then we have other clients that's just trying to get back on their feet from substance and alcohol abuse. So we definitely appreciate this with our gratitude from the Lord's Place, and thank you again.
And one last thing, if everyone in the room would like to give a round of applause for both of these organizations, we thank them so much for being involved in our community. We are now moving on to public audience portion of the agenda. Any citizen may be heard at any matter within the commission's jurisdiction. Speakers will be limited to 3-minute presentation. At the chair's discretion, this 3-minute allowance may need to be adjusted depending on the level of business before the city commission. So anybody that would like to speak, please come on down now.
Hi, Susan Oyer, Boynton Beach. I got to say, I'm quite upset to find out about 45 minutes ago that 8B on the agenda could lead to the destruction of our mangroves and what little green space we have in our city with this lieu and payment nonsense that they do. And I really hope you guys will consider tabling it and getting rid of this. No good comes from giving developers the option to pay to knock down our green space. We are grossly under what we are supposed to have as a city according to our master plan and the plan that we've had for decades in our city. Please note also, if we're the 3rd biggest city in the county, maybe we should have the 3rd largest amount of green space, and we definitely are nowhere close to what we should have. This is wrong in many ways. I will say that I'm trying to read my handwriting. Sorry, my handwriting's bad. I didn't have enough time to memorize this. We have the news for the last 2 weeks. If you've been watching, you are aware that we are in a massive drought in our state. We have 6 counties under mandatory water restrictions. It's growing. They're running out water restrictions down here into the southern part of the state. We are way far behind in our water. I encourage you to look at the news and see how bad it's getting. There's fires all over our state right now. So taking away trees, which is what brings us our rain, is definitely the wrong choice. And we definitely need more green space, not less, and not just because I'm an eco-hugger tree lover. But, let's face it, all the research shows that you are healthier when you are exposed to green space. I'm happy to, post it on social media and let everybody be aware of all the benefits to your health from being around space. So I'm going to say this is our city's future. This is our city's future on the line. What legacy do you want to have and leave going forward as to what you did for green space for our city? So whether you hopefully choose to vote no on this or you choose to table it, I think you definitely need to be doing some more research, and I think you need to be looking at what's going on in our state right now. We are in danger. We have no water. We desperately need more green space. And the 8B, this is the wrong choice. And I'm sure you're going to be hearing a lot more soon from the rest of the residents because we just started finding out about this 45 minutes ago. So I'd encourage you to do the right thing. And on that final note, Boynton had a forest cleanup over the weekend, and I spoke with Adam. Thank you. I think we finally figured out who's supposed to be picking up our trash. Thank you, Andrew and Adam. And feel free to send me the bill because apparently somebody's been dumping illegally stuff in that forest, including no less than 10 tires. And I'm happy to pay the bill if that's what's needed. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
Add me after public audience.
Good afternoon, Mike McCray. I recognize that we have freedom of speech here in the city of Boynton. Last meeting we was here talking about our swells. District 2, we're kind of tired of waking up in the morning time and find our district is being plagued with signs saying income tax, 2 children, 3 children, 4 children. We recognize why they're doing it. Something this morning was more alarming. On our stop signs, they have started putting, "We buy junk cars" on city property. You as the elected officials, you need to do something. If not, they're going to start using our signs as a billboard. If we don't start crying out now, and I'm crying out now, we need to do something. Also, we're celebrating America 250 years. I'd like to know when is Boynton going to get on board and start putting signs out or something saying Boynton Beach, we celebrate 250 years right along with America. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
Hello all. My name is Charles Hunt, a military retiree at 1330 Northwest First Court. Under civil rights law 42 USC and 1987, homeowners has the right to control and manage their properties. Under the 5th and the 14th Amendment, against unlawful government takings and denial of due process, the equal rights to property. The Civil Rights Act of 1866 ensures all citizens have the same property rights as white citizens. The right to exclude. Every citizen have the right to exclude anybody from their property. Please forgive me if I'm wrong, but I see a case of racketism building up here in Boynton. In the United States, racketism is a type of organized crime in which the perpetrator, extortioner, or otherwise, and as of a scam or operation exists. Whereas an HOA has rules which is legal because they are agreed upon by each other. However, Boynton Beach falls under government. So the government has already made the rules. Therefore, Boynton Beach must follow those rules to prevent people from having to look up city rules every time they enter a new city. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
Good evening. My name is Mauro Camuzzi. I'm president and owner of The Paving Lady. That actually would take me a lot more than 3 minutes to explain to you guys, so I'll just move on to how I became the owner of that. So my name is Mauro. I'm the owner of The Paving Lady. I'm located at 1000 West Industrial Avenue here in Boynton Beach. We've been operating in this city since 2004, and I've owned the company since 2016. Today, we employ approximately 100 people, many of whom live and work right here in this community. I'm here tonight regarding the recent enforcement of ordinance prohibiting parking on the swales, Chapter 14, Section 14-5. For many years, we've counted on the swale across from our facility on a dead-end industrial road for daytime parking of some of our employees' personal vehicles. This has been based on the posted signage indicating no parking from 7 p.m. to 6 a.m., which has led us to understand that the parking during the day was permitted. As our company has grown, we've continued to rely on that understanding. This is strictly daytime parking. Our team arrives in the morning and leaves in the afternoon. We don't store equipment, materials, or overnight vehicles there. On or about February 2nd, notices were placed on our employees' vehicles indicating the parking would no longer be allowed. Shortly after, citations were issued. Since then, I've had the opportunity to speak with members of code enforcement, and I want to say that they've been professional and helpful, and I appreciate their willingness to listen and guide me. I also understand that all of you have a tremendous responsibility in managing and leading a growing and beautiful city, and I respect that tremendously. At the same time, I carry responsibility to approximately 100 employees and their families who rely on my company every single day. I want to be clear. I understand and respect the intent of the ordinance. I do. I believe it serves an important purpose in many areas of the city. However, I respectfully believe that applying this as a blanket ordinance without considering certain site conditions and areas can create unintended challenges for businesses like mine. If we're no longer able to use the space, I will have significant operational impact on our company and our employees. I'm not here to oppose the city or the ordinance. I'm just asking for collaboration. All I'm requesting is the opportunity to meet with an appropriate city staff or representative to review our situation and see if there's a reasonable solution, whether it's a designated area, permit, or another compliant alternative. We want to do the right thing. We want to follow the rules. We just need a path that allows us to continue operating effectively. I'm proud to be part of this Boynton Beach. You know, we've grown this company in this city to be one of the leading paving companies in South Florida, probably the third largest, and we employ a lot of residents. We're simply asking for the opportunity to work together to find a solution and continue to contribute to the community. Thank you for your consideration and time.
Thank you. Next, please, sir. get his number.
Hi, my name is Marty Garvey, and I reside in High Point Condos, Section 3, and we need your help. We're trying to put in some patios, 400 square foot pavers on dirt behind our condos. Here's what we've done so far. We wanted to expand the patio to 17 feet, which is what the association allows. We had a conference call with the city, and they said, yep, that's fine as long as you're using pavers and not concrete. You don't need a building permit. So, okay, we go through the process. We start construction. On January 16th, the building inspector came by and said, stop everything, you don't have a building permit. We said, we were told we don't need one, and we read the building permits required from the city's website. I won't read it, you can read it yourselves. We're not doing any of those things, so we don't think we need a building permit. But they said, get one, we applied. We got turned down. According to the main plan that the city has, our condos from 1970 had 10-foot patios. In order to go to 17 feet, we need a brand-new minor development plan. So we submitted one. The city said, you don't have the survey points for the wall on Interstate 95. The barrier wall for Woolbright Road is not on the plan. You have to pay a surveyor to do a whole new plan for you with the barrier wall. I'm thinking that barrier wall has been there for 51 years. We didn't build it. It had nothing to do with us. Why do we have to spend many thousands of dollars to have our property completely resurveyed for a barrier wall that FDOT put there 51 years ago? So that's where we are now. We need to hire a survey company to survey the entire property to correct the barrier wall for Interstate 95 that we had absolutely nothing to do with. So what I'm looking for, what I'm asking for is I would like the ability to put my 400 square feet of pavers on the dirt as soon as possible. The building department has already said, you probably don't need a building permit. You're probably correct, but we need this wall surveyed.
Hey,
Do
sir.
we really?
Sir.
Yeah.
Typically, I don't interrupt public comment, but Amanda Radigan, the Director of Development Services, she's going to be happy to help you get through that, okay?
Okay,
All right.
that's what I'm asking for. That's what I need. Thank you for your
She'll see you in the back room.
Next, please. No, we alternate. You can come up, Ms. Reedy.
Good evening. My name is Barbara Reedy. I noticed on the agenda tonight, first reading of an ordinance, and I know we're not allowed to talk on first reading of an ordinance, but I would like to mention that, you know, someplace in the comprehensive plan that I read years ago is a ratio of green space to head count. So anytime I see a loss of green space, I am concerned, because we're up to, what, 85,000 possibly as a population? And nobody seems to know what the ratio actually is. So while staff is working on your comprehensive plan for you, maybe somebody could dig that ratio up for us and remind us what the ratio is, and we can see how close we are to adhering to it or how far away from the ratio we are. But I would prefer that, you know, we do not build things on our green space at every opportunity. You know, good green space is good. People want to live in Boca because they have green space everywhere, you know. And for us to build things on all the green space, that every square inch that we can, you know, no, let's not do that. Let's not do that. Let's be the city that people want to live in. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
Greetings, folks. My name is Tommy Isabella. 205 North High Point Boulevard, resident of Boynton Beach, former city council president in the city of Schenectady for 16 years. I'm here to support Mr. Garvey and what he's gone through. I think you have to look at your code department, planning and economic development, especially with the renaissance that is occurring in our beloved city. Without an effective code enforcement department and planning and economic development, your renaissance wouldn't be occurring. You have $3 billion in projects that are going to be in the forefront in a very short time, but I think you have to look at what Commissioner Turkin recommended in establishing a task force and really take a deep dive into your code department and what they're doing. We're not asking for leniency. When you the effectiveness of a city is the ability for the code department to interact and do things properly. For instance, on Fifth Avenue, when we got involved across from Pence Park with those dilapidated properties. So I think if you look to streamline, to look at the fee structure and the situation that Mr. Garvey is facing, he may incur costs of $5,000 to $10,000 to hire a surveying company, which is absolutely ridiculous because he's 300 yards from I-95. So that's just an example of a few things. But listen, authenticity is about understanding your imperfections. We all have them. And you build off the imperfections. And I think you have to look at the code department and say, something's not working. There's a perception out there that contractors don't want to do business in Boynton Beach. Whether it's a reality or not, it doesn't matter. So I think you have an opportunity to look and change things for the betterment, protecting what you're doing here. And this renaissance is going to explode, and we will become the destination that everyone wants it to be. So I encourage you to support Commissioner Turkin's idea of a task force, and I think it's going to work. Lastly, I just put in a new AC unit in my condo, and I had to get a permit. And it's not an enhancement, it's a necessity in this climate. I think that was absurd. I explained to Mr. Turkin, and I'll leave you with, I'm proud to be a resident of Boynton, and keep doing what you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next, please.
Hello, I'm Kathy, resident of Boynton Beach. Haven't been here in a while, and I'm still trying to understand how things work around this city. And I have a lot to say tonight since I haven't been here for a while, so I'll try to talk fast, and forgive me if I get a little frustrated about some of this stuff, but a lot of my frustration is due to not understanding the way that things work in the city and the CRA and all the different stuff. I fully understand and recognize that you guys got a lot going on here. There's a lot of moving parts. And as I said once before, I do believe haste makes waste. And I'm seeing, I feel, I mean, that parking ordinance thing, I have a problem with not allowing people to park on their own grass when they're not in a homeowners association. You know, I was a single-family homeowner before, and, you know, I think that was just government overreach, and it was haste makes waste. Okay, this business of the advisory boards. I see there's a waiver request, and I do see that there are a waiver because the guy lives outside of the city, and there are two other applicants that do live within the city. And I believe when this was started, it was because you were having a hard time filling some of the advisory board positions, and it was designed for maybe somebody that lives outside of the city limits but has special expertise. And I personally was very disappointed that the appeal, and I wondered, is there an opportunity to appeal? Like when Barbara was not approved for the Historic Resources Preservation Board, you know, there's still 2 vacancies there, and she is certainly highly qualified to be on that board. I haven't talked to her about it. I don't know, maybe she's not even interested anymore, but that's just my 2 cents. I have okay, also on your consent agenda, item 6C, with regards to this water service line within the utility easement. I'm not totally up to speed on what that development's going to be, because it's really difficult on the website trying to find that. Anyway, I oppose that, and I also oppose item 8A and 8B. Strongly oppose 8A and 8B.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Next, please, on the right.
My name is Kathy Gangness. I'm a resident of Estancia at Boynton Beach, and 8C and D are requesting a variance. We're asking to put in a fence where a fence has been ever since the certificate of occupancy was issued.
I'm sorry, ma'am. Those items will have public comment on them, and to provide public comment on the record, you will need to be sworn in. So they'll be doing that at the time the items are called.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Ray Whiteley, and I am always thrilled, and I'm serious. I'm always thrilled about having the opportunity to speak here. This is America, and I really value what you guys do, first of all. Second thing, I just want to say thank you for the city staff being so engaged in the monthly community meetings at Carolyn Sims Center. We really appreciate staff coming out, PD coming out, and just being a part of discussion and being a part of the community. We find that very, very valuable, and it's starting to, and Commissioner Hay coming out as well, and also the mayor. We try to send out the invites so that everybody could be a part of that community, not only the meeting, but just build community. Saying that, it's a few things that keep popping up, and it pops up after the meeting. And what I popped up recently, in addition to the parking situation, the calls just keep coming in, not with people who are being fined, but people who are just anxious and nervous about what's going to happen. So I think that being intentional about educating or continuing to educate, and I think that our 30 days did a lot for people who may be anxious about what's going to happen. The second thing that keeps coming up, and I think that is going to be talked about today, is the senior saints in our community. They are afraid because there's no place for them to be buried. So it's something that I do want us to address. And I'm just doing what I have to do to bring the conversations back to this space. And thirdly, at Hester Center, which is the community park, there's been talks about not having a playground for the summer for the kids to really play in. So if you could please just take a look at it. I haven't gone by there to literally take pictures and to look. I'm just responding to the calls and the text messages. So there's Hester about having a play area for the summer that the kids could really go and enjoy. It is the largest park in District 2 that people are really going to enjoy. The football programs there, other things are really there. And we have an all-American football field. I think that it'd be robbery not to have a place where the kids could actually play. Thank you for the parking, and let's look at that whole cemetery thing. And once again, I appreciate the access, I appreciate the return calls, and I appreciate just the open lines of communication that the city gives a poor little kid from Boynton. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anyone else in the audience want to do public comment? And do we have anyone online?
No, Mayor, we do not have anyone
Okay,
online.
public comment is now closed. And Vice Mayor, I know you wanted to pick up on your information items.
Yes, I would like to make some remarks. As you know, this is Black History Month, and I would like to say a few words about a lady named Gladys West. And I'd just like to say good evening to everyone, Mayor, to my fellow city council members and residents of the city of Boynton Beach. In honor of Black History Month, I would like to recognize an extraordinary African-American woman whose work quietly changed the world. Her name is Dr. Gladys B. West. That's W-E-S-T. She was one of the pioneers behind the technology that made GPS possible. Dr. Gladys White West was born in 1930 in rural Virginia. She grew up on a farm at a time when opportunities for Black women, especially in science and mathematics, were extremely limited. Yet through hard work and faith in her God-given abilities, she earned a scholarship to Virginia State University, where she studied mathematics. And in 1950, she began working at the Naval Proving Ground in Dahlgren, Virginia. She was one of only a few African-American women in the field, and she entered a world dominated by men and cutting-edge technology that was dominated by men. There, Dr. West became a computer programmer and mathematician at a time when computers filled entire rooms and programming was done on punch cards. Her major contribution was developing complex mathematical models that calculated the shape of the earth with incredible accuracy. Dr. West and her team worked on satellite data and geodesy, the science of measuring Earth size and shape. Her calculation helped create satellite positioning system that later evolved into what now we all call the global positioning system, which is GPS. Today, GPS is on our phones, our cars, airplane, ships, emergency service, and even city planning and infrastructure. When we get direction, track a storm, locate a missing person, or guide first responders, we are using technology built on the foundation of Dr. Gladys West's works. For many years, her contributions were not widely known, but in recent years, she has been recognized for her groundbreaking role, including being included in the Air Force Space and Mission Pioneers Hall of Fame. Her story reminds us that behind every modern innovation are brilliant minds who are often labored in silence, especially women and people of color. Dr. Gladys West's life teaches us that excellence has no color, no gender, no limits. Her journey from a small farm to the forefront of global technology is a powerful reminder to our young people in Boynton Beach that science, engineering, and mathematics are fields where they can thrive and lead. So I say to you, As we celebrate Black History Month, let us honor pioneers like Gladys West, not just for what they achieved, but for opening doors for future generations. Dr. Gladys B. West passed away on January 17th, 2026, only about a month ago, at the age of 95, leaving behind a legacy that literally guides the world every day through GPS technology. So Dr. Gladys West's life reminds us that brilliancy can rise humble beginnings. And may her legacy inspire young people in Boynton Beach to dream boldly, study diligently, and use their gift to change the world. So the next time that you use your GPS system, I want you to think of an African-American lady by the name of Dr. Gladys West. Thank you.
Next on the agenda is a request for Dawn Danzieri for a waiver of the residency requirement to serve on the CRA Advisory Board. However, legal has an update regarding this item.
Yes, actually, and request for direction. So we did do a waiver. Those apply to city-created boards that have been codified. For some reason, the CRA Advisory Board was enacted through a resolution, so a waiver would not apply in this situation because it has not been codified. That being said, if you would like it to be codified like the other advisory boards, which would be my recommendation, then that's certainly something we should do, but the waiver is not appropriate in this situation.
Moving on to the advisory board and appointments, we have 3 applicants for the Community Redevelopment Agency Advisory Board and 1 vacant spot. The nomination goes to Commissioner Turkin. Would you like to make a motion?
Yes, just for clarification for legal. So do we need to come back and codify? Would you recommend that before moving forward with any of these potential appointments?
No, you can, if the ones that don't need waivers, you can certainly make those appointments.
Okay.
And I believe there's 2 others there that don't need waivers, but a waiver for this board is not appropriate. If you want direction to have me codify that board through an ordinance, just so it's consistent, I would need direction from the commission.
Yeah, I would like to see the consistency. That way it's right across the board. Yep. And then regarding my appointment, I'd like to move to appoint Kim Kelly to the CRA board.
Second. We have a motion and we have a second to appoint Kim Kelly to the CRA board. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes unanimously. We have 1 applicant for the Education and Youth Advisory Board. This nomination goes to Commissioner Turkin. Would you like to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll move to approve, forgive me if I'm getting this wrong, Seisha Ramadan to the Education and Youth Advisory Board.
Second.
We have a motion to approve Sheisha Ramadan for the Education and Youth Board, and we have a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion passes unanimously. We have 2 applications for the Senior Advisory Board and 6 regular member positions available. The first nomination goes to myself. I'd like to make a motion to approve Mark Stevenson as a regular member of the Senior Advisory Board.
Second.
We have a motion and we have a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion passes unanimously. The second nomination goes to Commissioner Cruz. Would you like to make a motion?
I have a quick question. I was going to put Mr. William Perkins, but it appears that he's already serving on another city board. Did we say that you can't serve on 2 boards? I can't recall.
I could do some quick research, but that strikes my memory as well, but let me just pull it real quick.
Okay, so I'll table it until we figure out if he could be on multiple boards.
Let's do a motion then to table that.
Okay.
Motion to table.
We have a motion to table and we have a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion passes unanimously. We have vacancies to be filled on the Art Advisory Board, Building Board of Adjustments and Appeals, Education and Youth Advisory Board, Historic Resources Preservation Board, Library Advisory Board, and the Senior Advisory Board. We encourage all residents to apply. We will now be moving on to the consent agenda. If any of my colleagues want to pull any items from consent, let's begin with Commissioner Cruz.
Enough for me, thank you.
And Vice Mayor Hay?
No, none.
And Commissioner Kelly?
No, thank you.
And Commissioner Turkin?
A motion to approve consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion to approve the consent agenda, and we have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes unanimously. We will now move on to consent bids and purchases. If my colleagues would like to pull any item, let's begin on my left with Commissioner Turkin
No, Mayor.
and Commissioner Kelly,
No, thank you, Mayor.
Vice Mayor Hay,
No, Mayor.
and Commissioner Cruz.
Not for me, thank you.
Motion to approve.
Do we have a-
Second.
We have a motion to approve, and we have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes unanimously. We have 4 public hearing items. Public comment will be permitted for each item. Items 8C and D are quasi judicial and will be presented together. The commission will make their disclosures when we reach those items. I will turn to the clerk to read 8A into the record, please.
Proposed ordinance number 26-004, first reading, an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Boynton Beach, Florida, amending Chapter 2, Article 1, Section 2, types of land development applications, and Chapter 2, Article 2, Section 4B, community design appeal, and to add administrative approval process, providing for codification, conflict, severability, and an effective date.
Thank you. This is the first reading of the ordinance. Staff, would you like to begin your presentation?
All right. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commissioners. Kevin Fisher, Planning and Zoning Division Director. So item 8A is basically a process amendment to the land development regulations for our community design appeal applications. Currently, all community design appeal applications are required to come before the City Commission for approval, even for projects that otherwise would be administratively approved at the staff level. So what this does, it does not change the review criteria or any of the components of the appeal application, but it would tie the approval of the application to whether or not it's an administratively approved project or a project that is coming before the City Commission, in which case then you all would be voting on that application. And this is a part of, as we're going through the land development regulations, trying to work on streamlining approval processes and regulations. So again, this makes no other changes to the actual appeal application other than the modification in the approval process. And here, this is just, I'm not going to read it out loud, but that's just pulling from the land development regulations, the overview of the community design appeal. So with that, staff recommends approval of the ordinance on first reading.
Thank you. Any comments or questions from the commission?
No motion to approve.
Wait.
We have public comment.
We have public comment on this because of the advisory board, because it's a planning and zoning.
Anyone for public comment? Okay. If there's nothing else, do we have a motion to approve ordinance number 26-004?
I think you have someone.
Oh, we do? Oh, come on down. If anyone wants to speak, come on down to the podium now, so we don't miss you.
Here again. My understanding is this is the first reading.
Can you state your full name again, please?
Sure, my name's Kathy, and live in Boynton Beach.
And your last name?
Burris, B-U-R-R-I-S. Yeah, I would suggest that this be delayed, have a second reading, give people the opportunity to look into what this really entails and what it means. I have serious concerns about this, and you are our elected officials, and I think I understand about wanting to streamline the process, but I don't feel that I don't know, I'd like the residents to be more informed of what this all means, because the city website is really, really hard to navigate. It is just, it's just awful. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for public comment? Okay. Now, if there's nothing else.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Wait, okay, and then we'll do roll call, sorry.
We have a motion, we have a second, and I will turn to the clerk for the roll call.
Commissioner Kelly.
Yes.
Commissioner Turkin.
Yes.
Commissioner Cruz.
No.
Vice Mayor Hay.
Yes.
Mayor Shelton.
Yes.
In a roll call vote, the motion passes 4-1 with Commissioner Cruz dissenting.
Thank you. I'll turn to the clerk to read 8B into the record, please.
Eight B is proposed ordinance number 26-005, first reading, an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Boynton Beach, Florida, amending ordinance number 08-007 by amending policy 4.5.3 of the comprehensive plans conservation element of the City of Boynton Beach, Florida, to implement a payment in lieu option for conservation lands, providing a business impact statement, providing for severability conflicts, and providing for an effective date.
This is the first reading of this ordinance. Staff, would you like to begin your presentation?
Yes, good evening. Kevin Fisher again with the Planning and Zoning Division. So before I jump into the details, I want to set a little bit of context. So this is different in that typically when we're before you, it's amendments to the land development regulations. We're not there yet. That is where the meat of the program, what the associated fees with this program would be. But to even allow for that, it would involve the amendment of one of the city's comprehensive plan amendments. I'm actually going to go a little out of order, just so you can see the policy that we're talking about. So right now, policy 4.5.3 of the conservation element requires that for A-rated environmentally sensitive lands, or the highest quality, that a minimum of 25% be preserved on site. What this is saying is that there may be cases where it's a very small, isolated piece where, you know, it may be beneficial to have the in lieu payment program where we then have a funding mechanism for either the acquisition of strategic lands or the maintenance of existing lands that we have that are environmentally sensitive. The other thing I want to note, and I apologize for jumping around a little, is the conservation easement has a requirement that 75% of all of the A-rated ecosystem lands in the city of Boynton Beach remain. We have a tracking sheet of that, so this would never allow for that figure to drop below that, and we're not proposing to eliminate that. As part of the land development regulations, should the commission decide to move forward with this comprehensive plan text amendment, would be very specific in what types of lands could even be eligible for an in lieu fee program payment. I'll note there are local examples. Palm Beach County has similar language in their comprehensive plan, and then they have the specifications of how that works. So that in, you know, higher level is what we are doing here today. So as part of next steps, a lot of the details would be coming forward to this commission with the associated land development regulation amendments as well as the fee. So this, again, the city doesn't currently have a dedicated funding source to maintain environmental lands. This could be a potential for that. And like I mentioned, funds would allow for the maintenance of existing environmentally sensitive lands and or the purchase of strategic lands. There's just a couple of pictures of some different sites within the city. Already covered the policy. So this is first reading. So if this were to move forward, then it would be transmitted to the state, because this is a text amendment to the comprehensive plan. So there would be a state review. Then it would come back for a second reading of this comprehensive plan amendment. And then, like I said, subsequently, there would be the land development regulation amendments and the setting of what the in lieu fee payment amount would be.
Thank you. Any comments or questions from the commission?
Yeah, just for clarification, to address some earlier comment, I think this initiative, from my understanding, will allow the city to create a funding mechanism to then acquire environmentally sensitive properties, which I think is something that probably a little bit overdue. You know, we've had a long, you know, detailed discussion about our LDRs, comprehensive plan, green space, density, mangroves, and so I think this gives us the ability to create, you know, that pot of money that can't be touched and utilized, you know, for that preservation. So for me, I have no no issue moving forward, entertaining this. Seems like there's a lot of steps that follow afterwards. So, I look forward to, getting a little bit more feedback from the state, and then also, really shaping what the scope of this will be.
Any other comments? If there's nothing.
I'll make a quick comment. This proposed amendment weakens the city's existing environmental protections by allowing developers to pay a fee instead of preserving native habitat on site. Under current law, at least 25% of native plant communities on A-rated ecosystem sites must be preserved. This ensures that sensitive habitat remains physically protected within the development site. Introducing a payment in lieu option and the amendment removes that certainty, and on-site preservation would no longer be guaranteed. The entire A-rated ecosystem sites could potentially be cleared in exchange for payment. This is something that I want us to be mindful of. I can understand that there may be potentially good intent behind this, but I don't believe that creating an in lieu and removing the requirement, if the requirement doesn't exist, nobody's going to follow it. If it's not required by law, nobody's going to do it. So currently, there's at least a 25% protection, environmental protection, and this amendment in the law would basically take that away, with the opportunity of administratively approved payment in lieu.
If I could also just add to the discussion, Amanda Radigan, Development Director. Within the comprehensive plan right now, this is just one policy. There are other policies that have overall maximums to development. We have to maintain at least 75% of our rated sites overall, and allowing a pay in lieu of will not cause a net deficiency in that requirement.
Question.
It may, how you're saying site by site, require or allow for payment in lieu of micro-preservation of sites, which there is lots of research that says that those are unsustainable once 75% has been developed. So this allows for options to allow for an overall 75% of our environmentally sensitive sites to be maintained and have a funding source for maintenance while not preserving some of the micro-sites on a site-by-site basis.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that clarification. I was a bit confused.
So that means that even with, even like you said, in smaller sites, the current 25% would no longer apply, and there would be 0% requirement.
No, the requirement for conservation would still remain. It's just on a site-by-site basis. They may opt to pay in lieu of, based on the program parameters, which we don't have. However, that option is only available if the city itself is still within its overall parameter of 75% sensitive
Which
property.
right now we are.
We absolutely are. We have very little developed conservation property.
Yeah, great. I definitely have that concern. All right, thank you.
Thank you. If there's nothing else, do we have a motion? Oh, sorry, public comment.
Mayor, Commission, the only before we go to public comment, the only thing that I would add to the conversation, since it was brought up, the city does not have delegated authority for mangrove mitigation. That is by other jurisdictions, so that would not apply to this program.
Okay, you kind of sort of answered my question. Barbara Reedy, I was wondering if that meant that the city would be able to take a payment in return for selling mangrove property. So, and that's a no. I see Commissioner shaking his head. Okay, that's good news. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
Yeah.
Mark Terra, George, Boynton Beach. I want to thank Amanda for her clarification. She did an excellent job. The way the county has had this implemented for several years now is the right way to go. If we follow that guideline, it's going to be a win-win for everybody. As far as being a cash cow, no, it's not going to be that. It will be some money, but it won't be a windfall. Keep it in perspective. But the county's guideline on this is very clear, and it has been a benefit to all. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
Marshall Kathy. Again, I would like to understand this a little bit better, and I kind of feel like sometimes this public comment is really a waste of my breath. I feel like sometimes decisions are made before this meeting even starts, and I really don't understand the purpose of public comment when, I don't know, like the last one, you know, what was the rush to pass that tonight? Is there an urgent need for that on first reading? You guys do an awful lot of ordinances. You know, you pass out ordinances and change them and like I don't know what. And I would like to know what the process is to bring an ordinance forward. Where does that come from? Who starts that? Where or how could I propose an ordinance that I feel would be beneficial? Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for public comment? Okay. If there's nothing else, do we have a motion?
So move. Second? All right, which one do you want?
We have a motion to approve proposed ordinance number 26-005 on first reading. We have a second. Let's turn to the clerk for a roll call.
Commissioner Kelly?
Yes.
Commissioner Turkin?
Yes.
Commissioner Cruz?
No.
Vice Mayor Hay? Yes. Mayor Shelton?
Yes.
And roll call vote, the motion passes 4-1 with Commissioner Cruz dissenting.
These next two items are for one property, so they will be presented together. I will now turn to the clerk to swear in anyone here to speak on items 8C and D. So if you are here, please stand up so you can be sworn in.
Anyone who is here to speak on items 8C and D, please stand up and raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the evidence that you are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. You may have a seat.
Each commissioner can please make any disclosures at this time regarding items 8C and D. We will start to my right with Commissioner Cruz.
Regarding this item, I have not had any ex parte communication. I have not received written communication. I have not conducted an investigation. I have not made a site visit, and I have not received expert opinions. I request that these disclosures and all written communications be made part of the record.
As of this particular item, regarding this item, I have not had any expert communication. I have not received written communication. I have not conducted an investigation. I have not made a site visit, and I have not received expert opinion. And I request that these disclosures and all written communication be made part of the record.
Commissioner Turkin?
Yeah, just want, real quick for my colleagues, just so you guys are aware, we did receive an objection letter that every single board member was copied on. So I would definitely, I don't know if you guys want an opportunity to go back. That is a disclosure requirement. So that being said, regarding 8C, 8D, I did speak with Mr. Tom Carney, the legal representative for Estancia. And then I did receive an email from Michael, forgive me if I get this wrong, Wasinski, regarding a formal objection related to 8C and 8D. Outside of that, I have no further disclosures.
Commissioner Kelly?
Thank you. Regarding items 8C and D, I have not had any ex parte communication, although I did receive a voicemail message from Tom Carney, and I did receive written communication from Michael Wininski. I have not conducted an investigation. I have not made a site visit. I have not received expert opinions. I request these disclosures and all written communication be made part of the record. Thank you.
Regarding items 8C and D, I have had expert communication. I have received written communication. I have not conducted an investigation. I have not made a site visit, and I have not received expert opinions. I did speak to Attorney Tom Carney, and I did receive emails. I request that these disclosures and all written communications be part of the record. I'll turn to the clerk to read items 8C and D.
If we just pause 1 second, Mayor. And just for clarification, Commissioner Cruz and Vice Mayor Hay, yes, everyone received an objection, and that has been made a part of the record.
Okay. So we're good. Maylee, I'll turn to you to read in items 8C and D into the record, please.
Item 8C is variance for Estancia at Boynton Beach Homeowners Association, Inc., located at 3200 Estancia Lane. The applicant is requesting a development order for a variance from Part 3, Chapter 4, Article 2, Section 4B3C2, Table 4.4, urban landscape buffer to allow for adjusting the minimum required buffering to a 6-foot fence with a continuous hedge located on the inside of the fence. And item 8D is a major site plan modification for Estancia at Boynton Beach Homeowners Association, Inc., located at 3200 Estancia Lane. The applicant is requesting a major site plan modification application to construct a 6-foot fence in Estancia at Boynton Beach Homeowners Association, Inc., located at 3200 Estancia Lane.
This is the first time that these items are being heard. Staff, do you have a presentation?
Good evening, Commissioners. Yazan Bata with Planning and Zoning Division. We ask that the applicant presents first, and then staff can present afterwards. Thank you.
Would the applicant like to come down? That would be Mr. Carney.
Thank you very much. I would respectfully request
need
I'm sorry?
The clicker.
Oh, the clicker, God knows the clicker. Should I do what? I got you. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Not knowing your procedures, if staff elects to go after my presentation, am I afforded the opportunity to rebut? That's usually in the quasi-judicial rules. Is that correct? Okay. First of all, my name is Tom Carney. I am the registered agent and attorney for Estancia at Boynton Beach. Sitting here is the president of the association, Peter Carney. And back there, if he raises his hands, actually was the developer of this project. He's not so keen on testifying because he's older and he doesn't like these sorts of things. So I did provide I did send to staff, and if I may hand this to the clerk. He wasn't sure he was going to be able to make it, the developer, so he created an affidavit setting forth his recollection of how we got to where we got to. So back in 2006, the developer decides he bought the old Sunwa restaurant. If you remember the old Sunwa. And at that time, they decided they were going to build 30 townhomes, and they went through the process of developing the 30 townhomes. In that, they were not, by the way, represented by council, so that's too bad. But whatever. How do I, does this?
There you go.
Oh, I'm sorry, is that over here?
Everywhere.
Oh, I'm sorry? Okay, the purpose of the meeting. Well, the purpose of the meeting, I don't know how to do PowerPoint, thank you. So if it's a little disjointed, it's because garbage in, garbage out. But anyway, the purpose of this meeting is to really try to correct a situation that's now 20 years old, and to really take the only people who had absolutely nothing to do with it, the innocent party, so to speak, are these 30 homeowners. So back in 2006 and 2007, they're building the project, and along the way, and there was no doubt early on in the early site plan submissions, there was supposed to be a 6-foot wall built as the boundary wall, because the boundary was going to be at where the location of the wall and now proposed fence is going to be. So they go through this whole process, and they discover that in order to create a sewer to service 815 Bamboo, they were going to have to run the sewer across the Estancia property and then head essentially east to the 815 property for a guest to be connected there. And at that point, they said, well, you're not going to be able to do a wall because you can't do a sewer pipe over a wall. So
They recorded it. They did a recorded easement. I want to note for the record, the staff report mentioned several times that I provided an uncertified copy. I delivered the original copy to Michael Rumpf in 2007. So somewhere in your files you have the original. But in any event, I did go out and get a certified copy done to the clerk and fax it to your staff, who, by the way, were great to work with. I mean, I say this because oftentimes you don't give staff credit. I may not agree with everything staff does, but they did a great job, very professional, and you should be very happy to know that they really did work very hard on this file. But there were a lot of documents missing. You know, we went back to the surveyor to try to get the original survey. They didn't have it. Again, this is 20 years ago. They were not digital back then. Everything was in paper and in boxes. The city, you know, God love them, they didn't have all the documents either. We tried to get a copy of, I tried to get a copy of the certified site plan. Nobody had it. So the developer clearly didn't have it. It was 20 years ago. That was long gone. So we were working with a lot of incomplete documents, trying to put together a story. So lo and behold, by the way, when I first filed the justification letter and all that, I didn't have all the information about the easement. So that came later as we were trying to investigate, you know, finding where all the different people were, that were all the bodies involved in this process. So we finally, you know, we get to the easement. So they're told they don't really have to build the wall now because, you know, there's going to be because there's going to be the sewer pipe. Then somewhere in that transaction, within a week or so of that transaction, they're told, you know, if you buy 815 Bamboo, you'll own the other side of that boundary, so the boundary will no longer be there. So you don't have to do it all at all, because you'll own both sides of the property. So a week after the easement is recorded, lo and behold, a warranty deed acquiring 815 Bamboo takes place. Now they're told, and again, they don't have counsel, they're told this is all going to be handled administratively. Now, I don't know whether what the process to do things administratively are in Boynton. I guess they figured that once they bought the other side of the property, there was no longer a wall required, and they could just do it administratively, you know, without needing a major site plan or site plan modification, because the conditions of the site plan were no longer there because they owned both parcels of land. So we've got a situation where, and you know, I reviewed the staff report, and the staff report essentially, you know, they're on B through F, they're kind of saying, yeah, you met those tests. But in A, which is really do special conditions, without reading it all to you, I asked him how long I have. He said, we don't have a time limit. And I said, oh, don't tell me you don't have a time limit.
No, you
That's
do.
never a good thing.
You do.
But they said, do special conditions and circumstances exist which are peculiar to the land, structure, and building? Well, you know, they look at the site as a kind of a de novo. They say, well, there's no special circumstance here. The special circumstance is 20 years. You know, an incomplete documentation. And the reason I gave the affidavit, and I have him here to testify if required, is that the only competent evidence I have is the guy who was actually there, who did the project, who said, this is what they told me. Because there's two things that had to happen. Because, by the way, so they do all this. Meanwhile, they issue certificates of occupancy, and the 30 houses are sold. So typically, you don't issue a certificate of occupancy until the project is done. So I guess everybody thinks the project is done. And which certainly the homeowners thought the project was done. They didn't expect to be 20 years later saying, oh, by the way, you have, you know, we need $100,000 to construct a wall. You know, that was, you know, at some point, it's an undue hardship to the homeowners who really are the innocent ones. I noted one thing where they said that, you know, the estancia people took, because they took from the prior, they sit in the same shoes as the original developer, which is a decent argument. But in that case, 815 Bamboo Lane, which was also owned by the same developer, also has to be subject to the same kind of restriction or benefit, depending on how you're looking at it. So, I don't know what I'm doing. Here is, well, I'm sorry, but we scanned everything. This is just the map of the places that we stated. These are the signs we put out. As I said, I apologize for all of this because this is what the fence, oh, by the way, the fence in front of the property along Bamboo is this metal fence, right? It's not a hard fence. You see the little rickety fence that's there. That's what's kind of left of it. This is, I took this picture so you would notice that whatever is constructed there, fence or wall, you're not going to be able to see it. I mean, it's kind of like, it's not like it's going to be prominent. It's not like it's a long bamboo lane. It's down in between two properties, going from bamboo lane to the intercoastal. Here is the property line as you can see it now, and you can see the kind of the rickety fence going down there. This is the same rickety, same thing. I'm just trying to show you, if you see like the fences, and then they all have these metal fences. They're not these walls. So, by the way, this is what the fence looks like now. It was kind of taken down, and this is the fence we're talking about. We're talking about doing one of these very nice. And I have a handout of that if you really want to see it, because I didn't realize we were going to be in two parts. So when we do the other part, I'll hand out the little picture. So this is what they're talking about. You've seen these fences, and you've seen they're high quality fences. So I was left with this thing. How did we get here? So either the city didn't make sure that the project was complete before it issued the COs, and I'm not prepared to say. I'm not pointing any fingers. I don't know whose fault it was. Or what the applicant is saying, what the builder is saying is actually true, that, hey, they told us we didn't have to build it, because according to his affidavit, he said, we had the money, it was in our construction funds, it wasn't like we couldn't build it, it was just, we were told we didn't need to build it because we owned both sides of the property and we had the sewer line. So they didn't get built. So I'm opting that that's the true story. I'm not gonna say that Boynton didn't, whether they didn't do it right or not, it doesn't really matter. It's been 20 years. What does matter, and you know, and Vice Mayor Hay kind of hit on a point that I want to make in the invocation where he talked about justice and fairness. This has been 20 years. And at some point, you know, you don't go back to the people who really and truly had nothing to do with it and say, okay, we're going to impose this standard that's 20 years old for which you had no input. Because remember, they didn't have a chance to sit in front of this commission and say they wanted a wall or a fence or anything. They didn't have any of these opportunities to do this barrier. And so really, in terms of fairness, the 20 years and the competent evidence that I've given, I really do think that the benefit of the doubt really needs to go to the development and saying, you know, they should do a fence instead of a wall. Do a nice fence, by the way, and the conditions of approval that were provided by staff, which were actually fine with us, because we're going to work very closely with them, because the association is very keen on having a very nice fence, because they got to be looking at it. So the adjacent property owner will also be the beneficiary of that fence, but it's going to be a very nice fence. And but you know, whether I don't know why they thought they didn't have to amend the site plan. Nobody told them. As I said, they didn't have counsel. Nobody, I mean, in my world, I would sit and say, well, you know, let's go in and get a letter from them or something. Because staff would say, well, we didn't see anything in the file. Well, there was a lot of stuff not in the file. But again, including apparently the original easement which I delivered. But in terms of what is fair to the residents here, 20 years is a long time. Nobody was expecting this fence, the wall, to be constructed. You know, the property was subsequently sold that they owned, and then it's been sold a couple times since then. Nobody came in and bought that house saying, hey, wait, we're supposed to have a wall here. I mean, they may say, oh yeah, in 2020 hindsight, but the reality is no, because nobody knew, because the city didn't have the certified site plan. All we had was surveys that were put in. So I think when you look at it in total, it really is fair to give the variance, because special conditions do exist. And that's 20 years, and all of the evidence that we've shown you about saying that it's more likely than not that they were told not to do this wall because they were ready, willing, and able to do it, but didn't do it. And there had to be a reason, and I'm suggesting it's the reasons that I just gave you. So that's my presentation. I look forward to any questions you may have. I look forward to hearing from the public and rebutting and doing whatever I need to do. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Staff, do you want to come up?
Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, good evening. I'm Yazan Bata with the Planning and Zoning Division. The applicant has submitted two concurrent applications, a variance, which is a request to construct a vinyl fence in lieu of a 6-foot concrete wall where the concrete wall is required. And the accompanying application is the major site plan modification. The proposed fence is located on the southeast corner of the property, right next to the adjacent single-family house located at 815 Bamboo Lane. In 2006, Estancia Homeowners Association received an approval, and the approved plans showing a concrete wall, staff was not able to find documentation showing otherwise. Since then, a number of applications were submitted by the applicant for various reasons, some of which included a request to construct a fence in lieu of a wall, but those were rejected. The adjacent single-family house located at 815 Bamboo Lane, staff found that that property obtained in 1994 a variance request approval to construct the garage 1 foot from the property line, where the required setback was 10 feet. This is the proposed fence that the applicant submitted with the plan with a picture of the fence, how it would look like. Staff recommends disapproval of the variance request. Should the commission choose to approve the variance request, staff recommends approval with the conditions, with approval of the conditions of approval, showing a hedgerow on the inside of the inside side of the fence inside the property. As for the major site plan modification, staff also recommends denial. Should the City Commission approve, staff recommends approval contingent upon the approval of the variance. Thank you.
Okay. Is there any questions from my colleagues on this issue?
Real quick, right now on that, it's hard to tell. I've looked at all the Google Maps and all the location maps. Are there two fences there now? There's the wooden fence, but then behind that wooden fence is there the metal fence? Do you have, because it's covered in foliage, so I'm just wondering how, because, you know, I mean, in looking at this, if you add concrete, it's just going to reduce your ability to access your property. So as much as I understand that there was supposed to be a concrete wall, I think looking at a concrete wall is worse than looking at foliage, but that's just I wouldn't want to look at that. But I'm curious, is there, because on Google Maps, there's a wood fence, but then it also looks like there's a metal fence that runs along the bushes, runs along Bamboo Lane. Is that hidden within the bushes? Is that what's there now?
So the fence is correct. The fence is two pieces, if you will. The conditions of approval has a condition that says the fence shall be, the wall or the fence shall be constructed 2 feet from the property line to allow for the fence or the wall to be continuous, and the hedgerow should be on the inside side of the fence.
So I guess just my confusion is looking at Google Maps and knowing properties and knowing that if you put a fence on your property and then somebody has a fence right on their property, then they're looking at their fence and not at your fence. So I'm just curious, because there's a concrete post on the end and there's a fence that's kind of attached to that concrete post. Whose fence is that, and where would said fence or wall go? Because my understanding is it would be even further back than where even that concrete wall post is. So it's hard to kind of navigate where all this goes, but.
Good evening, Amanda Radigan, Development Director. The requirement is actually for a buffer. Mm-hmm. The buffer includes a 6-foot solid wall. So the way the code reads is that you need to have 3 feet of a hedge or foliage on the outside. So they are not looking at a 6-foot wall. They are looking at maintained landscaping and then a wall and then additional landscaping on the inside. So it is a buffer that contains landscaping on both sides with the wall in the middle. So I can't speak to what's there currently. I do know that they did have a fence. I'm not sure what concrete posts, but all of that would need to be removed and placed per code if this wasn't approved. That's what code requires now. That is what code required at the time of their approval.
Okay. I guess just my confusion is, because I was reading the objection, and it said that the fence, they don't like the look of the fence that they're looking at, but there's a wooden fence also, so if the wooden fence belongs to the 115 Bamboo, they're not going to be looking at the vinyl fence that's on
Yes.
the
This
Estancia
wouldn't-
property. So I'm just
right.
trying to understand what.
So I can
What?
speak to the objection letter. I do believe that they may be in the audience and they'll have a chance to speak at
Okay.
public comment. But it wouldn't, so including the requirements on the Estancia site would not prohibit them from doing a fence of their own. Obviously, the intent is that they no longer need a fence because it is buffered adequately on the more intense site. But if they asked for a fence on their site, they would be permitted to do that too.
Okay.
One of the
maybe
other
I'll-
things I'd like to just quickly clarify is when we recommend approval or denial of a variance or an application like this, the code sets out review criteria. We don't often recommend denial, but what we do is review the review criteria within the code, and in the staff report, you'll see a response for each of the review criteria. If we can't support, or if the justifications don't support adequately each of the review criteria, that equals a recommendation of denial. And of that, I think that there are 7 or so criteria, 2 of which we did not feel were well supported.
If I may just remind the commission, tonight you're sitting here in a quasi-judicial thing. So the way we're looking at that is strictly applying the code to this particular parcel. Do they meet the code requirements? And I understand, whether it's prettier to look at a fence versus a wall, those sorts of things, but based upon the criteria that is in the code, that's what this commission needs to consider. And so with that being said, in looking at the evidence, an affidavit was submitted. Just so you're aware, you guys are free to give the appropriate weight to that affidavit based upon a 20-year-old memory when you don't have the person here to cross-examine or question. You can give it the appropriate weight that entails, whatever you think that's appropriate. But what we are to be looking at is the concrete evidence. That's not argument of counsel. It's what the record actually shows, and has the applicant met the requirements of our code.
I just think this is very.
If I may, I do have, the person who issued the affidavit is here, and he is prepared to speak.
I was under the impression you said he was
No, I said,
not going to
I'm doing it
testify.
because he really would rather not, but he is here.
Okay. I'm just advising the board as to the legal requirement. We still have other people as well for the public hearing who will also provide testimony.
Okay. Is there any other comment from the commission before we go to public comment? Because I just would like to say, I don't think this is fair to the residents from 20 years ago and to be put through this now when they purchased a home, not having this criteria. So I think it's, and a wall versus a fence, that cost is insane. And to go on to the homeownership, and is it correct that this is one homeowner that's wanting this and there's 29 others?
So if I can clarify, when Estancia was approved, these requirements were in place, and they are reflected on the approved site plans and several subsequent applications to the city. The wall and the appropriate buffer were on record, I'll say. And then the other thing I'll say is that the buffer is not necessarily on ownership or what is on the other side. It's based on zoning and intensity of zoning. So if Estancia had to be, or any place, had to be rezoned to a more intense zoning district, the burden is typically on that site to buffer the other existing zoning districts through the development process. So in this case, we have single-family homes to multifamily. The multifamily was redeveloping. They were the ones that were required to put in the buffer by code at the time of site plan.
Okay. Any other comments from the commission? before we move to public
We
comment?
can move to public comment.
Okay. Let's move to public comment, please, sir. Would you like to speak?
Tell them you identify yourself for the record.
Well, I was there 20 years ago, and I am here today.
Can you please state your name, sir?
So I'm E. Anthony Wilson. We developed this property over 20 years ago. It was an old Chinese restaurant, among other things, and a bunch of houses that were a wreck. I believe we put in a very nice development. I believe when we were talking about building the concrete wall, that we couldn't build it because we had run a sewer line over to 815, the property next door. And so we weren't allowed to put the fence up. And of course, 20 years later, my attorney calls me and says, you know, they're talking about you putting up a fence. And I said, well, I haven't owned the property for 20 years, so look somewhere else. I think it's ridiculous to even talk about it, or especially talk to me.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else here for public comment? If so, please come down to the podium.
Peter Carney. I am actually Vice President now of the HOA of Estancia, 812 Virginia Garden Drive. I've echoed everything that's already been previously said. A boundary is being put up, but in the form of a vinyl wall as opposed to a concrete wall, which is over $100,000 to put up. I mean, I was blown away when we started looking for estimates. I didn't think we were gonna have to go down this road to be able to do this. I mean, for such a small matter, we had to go through major site renovations and everything else per the City of Boynton Beach Code. But here we are today speaking to you, and it's really, as it's been said before, it's a sense of fairness here. It's 20 years later, we're being asked to drop $100,000 on a concrete wall strictly for the boundary between the two properties. And some of it's complicated by the fact that you have a house that is 1 foot off the property line, which is, I've never heard a place where a side setback's been reduced from 10 feet to 1 foot off the property line. But again, the fact of the matter is, all I'm trying to say is this is effectively a sense of fairness. We have proposed a vinyl wall to go between the two properties, which will be 2 feet off the property line, so it'll be actually 3 feet. And I think this is a fair compromise from what was being asked and what we're being proposed. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please, if you could step up to the podium, that would be great.
Kathy Gangness, 818 Virginia Garden in Estancia.
Can you put the mic down to your mouth?
Down.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
Perfect.
I'm short.
I know. I deal with it all the time.
So as a resident of Estancia, to be asked to spend the amount of money it'll cost to do this seems ridiculous. Had no clue when we bought the place. In 2014, when the person next to us purchased the property, the fence was there as it was. The fence was sturdy and in place until some water encroachment from a new gutter draining on our property created some issues. I've been through, I provided the documents to them about the sewer line and the agreement on that. I was concerned when I was reading through the staff recommendations that they continue to mention no evidence of that. Here's the Boynton Beach agenda item from 10/6/2009, when you guys discussed the payment for the sewer line being connected by the developers of Estancia. And here's the approval. When you guys approved it, you paid it. So I was like, and the staff couldn't find certified copies of it. I was able to find certified copies on Palm Beach site. I was unable to find their references to the request to replace it with a fence on the Boynton Beach side. I'm still searching. I would appreciate it if they would tell me when and where. When I look at their report and I look at the list of the dates of the site plans that they pulled up, they're all prior to the date that the sewer was discussed. I haven't, I've owned my residence till 2017. I've been involved in other states with building and stuff, and nowhere except maybe Boynton Beach would somebody be allowed to put in a structure like a concrete wall that requires a footing over utilities. And yet that's what we're being asked to do. And the agreement on the Palm Beach County site says right on it that in order to be asked to do something like that would require approval of the sewer people, and otherwise I didn't see any of that when I read the staff report either. So yes, I'm concerned about being asked for that. I don't know, Mike, whoever the objection, I haven't read it, but I do know he's not the homeowner next door.
Thank you. Next, please.
Good evening. My name is Hakan Gangnis. Thank you, everybody, for your time and attention to the matter. I understand there's nothing I can say nor do to change your minds this evening. I do have some questions for you that you should think and answer for yourself. One, as staff, why would you allow staff to perform the duties that are endowed upon you as the members of the commissioners? It is your job to make the decision, not the staff's. They should provide support and clear evidence that in facts unbiased to allow you guys to make the decisions. So why are they making the recommendations that you guys should be doing that? I don't see why you guys would permit this. Now, would it be a crazy idea if all excommunications were provided about the affected property, Michelle Harris and Michael J. Walensky? I guess I'd question is, how can Michael speak on behalf of the owner? The owner is in the Michelle Trust. Did he provide any documentation that he is the manager or anything that he can be a representative as an owner of said property? Now, regarding the matter of the wall, the staff report seems to be incomplete and non-thorough. There seems to be several inconsistencies. I do ask the question, what makes this variance applicable? Shouldn't this just be a simple administrative submission? As a PUD, shouldn't the government be governed by the covenants of any compatibility, not the local zoning requirements? Sorry again. Now, it seems to be inconsistent with this major encroachment for this utility. Who's going to take the liability should something happen? This sewer is only feet from a waterway. Are you guys going to answer to FTEP, to the Army Corps, to the Coast Guard if such spill or something incident occurs? Is that something that the city wants to take on? Is that someone the next door neighbor wants to take on? If he wants this wall so bad, is he willing to take this responsibility? Frequently, this is a canal that is has manatees, which I believe are a protected species federally. So is he willing to take that liability? And I guess, two, if this said wall is to go on the property line, how are we going to have a foundation next to an existing building foundation? How are we going to ever achieve to have not any liability to just disrupt his building, take that on? So then, at that point, sorry, thank you for everyone's time.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Anyone else in the room? Any other comments from the commission? Any questions?
You do have.
Oh, come on up, sir.
Hi, Michael Wisniewski, 815 Bamboo Lane. Michelle Harris could not be attending, so I sent a letter of objection today. We did not object to the concrete wall. We prefer the concrete wall over a vinyl fence. Under land development regulations of the City of Boynton Beach, a variance may only be granted where special conditions, circumstances exist, and distinctive of the land. The hardship is not self-created. The variance is minimum necessary to make the use of the property. Granting the variance would adversely affect the surrounding neighbor. The request is not based merely on economic preference. Florida courts consistently hold that a variance may not be granted where the hardship is self-imposed. A variance cannot be used to correct construction performed contrary to a site plan. Administrative boards lack authority to grant relief where the applicant created the nonconformity. This is a self-created condition. The original site plan required proper grading, a retaining wall, and a block wall consistent with architectural design. Proper grading was not completed, resulting in documented water runoff from Estancia to 815 Bamboo Lane. The present variance request solely resides because Estancia failed to construct the retaining wall and block wall required under approved plans. This is a textbook definition of self-created hardship. Under Florida law and Boynton Beach zoning standards, such circumstances categorically disqualify the applicant from variance relief. The wall is what we're looking for to have on the property. Creating a variance will degrade neighborhood aesthetics, substituting an inferior fence where block wall is consistent with community standards, reduce privacy and sound buffering, fail to address ongoing drainage and runoff. We have a 18 to 24 inch variance where the water comes down under our property every time it rains. They did not grade the property correctly. The adjacent property at 815 Bamboo Lane bears the direct physical consequences of Estancia's prior noncompliance. The failure to install the wall and proper grading has resulted in illegal water discharge on 815 Bamboo Lane. Property damage, ongoing drainage concerns were documented with the engineering department in June 2024. The variance application does not cure these deficiencies. Instead, it attempts to modify the one portion of the required boundary treatment while leaving the underlying grading non-compliance resolved. The theory that our drain onto their property created the issue is non-existent. Our problem is the concrete wall, retaining wall was not installed as it was supposed to be back in 2005.
Thank you. Do you want to speak for public comment? Yes. Okay. And if there's anyone else in the room, please get up to the podium now.
Good
So we
evening.
know.
My name is Dante Frigari. I live at 815 Estancia Way. Actually, I'm the neighbor where I live in Estancia, but that fence runs north-south along my property boundary. So a couple of things. He quoted 2004, which I'm not, the community wasn't even there in 2004. Secondly, he continues to talk about, let's start with this. So let's deal with the drainage and the erosion aspect of it. The side of his house, which I have photographs of, he has a gutter system, which all of his gutters, gable roof, everything discharges onto our property. It backwashes. I also have all of that whole property line on where our property is graded. Excuse me.
Yeah, no comments from
Thank
the
you.
audience, please.
So I have photos of his gutter, which discharges water onto our property, which eroded away the fence that was there. With all the torrential downpours, eroded away the post.
Please, no comments from the audience. You had your 3 minutes. Let's give him his time.
I mean, I want to reclaim my time, considering that we have to
understood.
stop for
Keep
him.
moving. We'll give you the 10 seconds.
So again, along that property boundary, it continues to erode away. It continues to erode away, so much so that he took a bunch of oyster plants and a bunch of garbage and everything and placed it up against there, so that this way it wouldn't. What that did was, over a period of time, it eroded away the post for the fence, which now, again, I have photographs, and I think that it was displayed earlier, where the fence is now leaning over, where I personally have witnessed him rocking the fence back and forth. And that's all that I'll say about the disgruntled neighbor that has his house up for sale. But actually, his live-in person or whatever, he's not on the deed. And regardless of whether someone appointed you, given you, a letter of authorization, or whatever that it may be, he's not on the deed. I don't even know if he's on the FPL bill. However, I digress. The community was built, I've lived there for, 6 years. That fence was in good shape, it was in good standing that was there. Obviously, with the sewer connection, the sewer lateral connection going across there, it would not be a good idea to place the concrete wall over it itself because, again, depending upon the depth of that pipe, which I'm thinking is only about 36 to 42 inches. Now, someone from your code enforcement or public works department could probably tell you, where that was. But I have a copy of the approved as-built by the city here. It would be an undue hardship to place this burden on the 30 homeowners to have to construct a $100,000 wall. And again, how does, there's a 10-foot side yard setback, but however, his home is 1 foot off the property line. And so again, without placing blame on anyone, there's got to be some accountability for the city providing and giving the COC of the community, the certification of completion for the community, and issuing 30, certificates of occupancy for each one of the residents. I mean, what's just is just and what's fair.
You're good. Thank you.
So, thank you.
Next, please.
Good evening. My name is Lori Albinson. I'm a resident of Estancia. I live in 826 Virginia Garden Drive, and I'm here in support of our community, and my neighbors have certainly represented, I think, some of the challenges that we're facing, but I'm here tonight to ask for your support in really ensuring that the burden of $100,000 is not placed on the residents. Myself and my husband purchased our townhome in 2019, and certainly something like this would impact not only our families, but others within the community. So I'm just here asking for their support and concurring with my neighbors and some of the technological aspects of this situation. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, no more public comment. If there's nothing else, do we have a motion to approve the variance? Shauna?
I just want to remind, this is quasi-judicial, and I know that when we start talking about fairness or equity or those sorts of things, again, that's more legislative. You are sitting here today as a judge, and whether or not the applicant has the burden to show that they did not create the situation, and it's not about fairness, it's not about hardship, it's does the application meet our code? So please consider that. Thank you.
You have a rebuttal, Mr. Carney?
Well, I mean, I think that I would like to say a couple of things. First, I don't think anybody can really say that this is a self-imposed situation for these 30 homeowners. I mean, let's be honest, it was 20 years ago. There has to be some responsibility for the issuance of all the certificates of occupancy. We just can't pretend we went ahead and issued them, and oh, by the way, we missed something, you've got to go ahead and do this. I'm sorry, that's just, when you talk about fairness, it's not really fairness. It has to do with a critical ingredient of whether whether the applicant is correct saying don't build a wall, because that's the only thing that would make sense. Because in fact, I think if they had owned both sides, which they did, I do believe they would not have been required to have a wall between their two properties. And I think that was a critical point that was being made, which is why they acquired that piece of property to begin with. 1 week after, and it's attached to the affidavit that I provided. So, so there was the boundary issue. The code, the LDR, your land development regulations require a barrier. This is going to be a barrier with landscaping on both sides. And I will tell you, and your landscape people will agree, and even Ms. Radigan probably will agree, that landscaping is a more effective way to mitigate your sound than any wall or any fence or anything. It's the landscaping. And they're talking about doing serious landscaping here because, number one, they got to look at it. And if the situation could be a lot different if the property the structure was the city 1 foot from the property line. I mean, these days, with this commission, nobody would ever approve that now. But the reality is we keep looking at a piece of land that has undergone a lot of different issues because it's the actual owner of that house was the owner of the Sunwa, and they own both parcels too, so that's why they built it close to their property line, because they're using the same rationale that my guy was told he could use by eliminating that boundary. So it seems to be an inconsistent application and now say, you have to go ahead and build this wall. And you really can't ignore the fact that there's going to be a sewer there. You just can't ignore it. That's a bona fide reason for not having to build a wall. First of all, trying to build a wall with the footings 1 foot from the property. I mean, it's I don't even know. I guess it could be done engineering wise, but 20 years ago, someone made a mistake. I don't know who it was. I just know that the only people who didn't make a mistake are the 30 homeowners who live in there now, who pay their taxes, keep their lawns up, do everything they're supposed to do, and are now being hit with something that was completely not their fault. And by the way, will really add no additional benefit to the neighborhood, because this fence that they're talking about will complement the neighborhood. There's nobody even saying it's not in harmony with the neighborhood. Staff doesn't even say it's not in harmony with the neighborhood. And it will be an effective boundary that isn't even going to be seen by anybody, except the Estancia resident and the resident of 815, who bought the house with an old rickety fence, so this frankly is an improvement. But anyway, that's all I have to say. And oh, by the way, I did not have, I wish I didn't know this woman who had all this stuff from your agenda item where they're actually paying for the public sewer. So the people knew the sewer was there, before, at the time of all the COs, so they knew it. So to say that there's nothing in the files is kind of begs the question. Thank you.
No other comments from the commission?
No, I just want to say thank you, everyone who came out and spoke and taking your time to be here tonight. My position is that we have this variance process for a reason, and moving forward, I would like to approve the variance with the conditional approval that staff has brought forward with that landscape buffer. I think that is critical.
Are there any objections on the condition of approval? And would you repeat those again?
We do have a set of conditions of approval, both attached to the variance and the site plan. A couple of points of clarification.
Oh, the applicant, by the way, has no objections to the conditions of approval. We're going to work with staff to do what they want.
Okay. And they are again attached to both the variance and the site plan. Staff does agree that a fence would be a beneficial boundary if nothing was existing now or in the state of what is existing currently. A couple of things I did want to clarify for the record, though. In terms of ownership of the neighboring property, that would not change the requirement for a barrier, because the barrier is a requirement of the zoning district and the development. So when the staff report says there's no evidence of them not having to do it, that's all it says. It's not that there's no evidence on the site plan. We have an approved site plan. We have a survey that shows a wall. According to the records of the city, there was a wall. And that's why the COs were issued and inspections were finalized. We have a survey showing a wall. I believe that the applicant is stating that the wall never existed. Again, I wasn't here 20 years ago. I don't know. I can only tell you what is in the current records. We did talk to utilities. They are okay with a wall. It wouldn't be right on the property line, but I believe we're doing it 2 or 3 foot setback from the property line, and utilities has cleared that as well with planting on both sides. I'm available for questions if there's anything.
So will there be 2 walls if?
No, the code only requires 1 wall. It would be 1 6-foot wall about 2 or 3 feet from the property line.
May I ask staff one question? You mentioned the requirement to be a barrier, but the barrier does not have to be a wall. A fence qualifies as a barrier as well. Is that correct?
No, the code does require a 6-foot wall. The code requires a 6-foot wall in this condition.
But when you talk about a barrier,
the code requires a 6-foot wall. And that's why we're here for this variance. I understand that it is a complication to the neighborhood.
Well, no, I'm just saying, I
Again,
mean, 20 years ago, we don't know why, who said
understand.
what to whom, but all I know is the developer had the money to build the wall. They told you didn't have to build the wall, they didn't build the wall, and they issued 30 certificates of occupancy.
I
There's 30 people
understand,
who
but
had-
all I can say is what the records show. The records and the survey shows an existing
Agreed, I
wall.
knew it.
So if I wish what we had evidence to show otherwise, that it was either taken down or not given, I agree that the record might be muddy
So,
considering
I
your
mean,
recollection.
you kindly provided me what you had because you didn't have the copy of the certified site plan. I mean.
And I wasn't here 20
Nobody
years
has a
ago.
copy of the
We're not
certified
going
site
to let
plan.
you two go at it.
Okay.
Okay, we're not going to let this happen. So.
No, I'm saying she
everybody-
kindly,
But I get it, I
provided
get
it.
it, I get it.
I thought
but
they were great.
Just calm down for a moment.
I just want to mention one thing.
Call to question. Can we, if
Yeah,
no one has
let's
any more
just-
comments from the commission,
If I
can
could
we
just,
call
for
the
the
vote?
record, just for the record, because this could be reviewed by a court, so let me just say on the
Everything's
record.
reviewed by a court.
Issuance of a certificate of occupancy does not amend an approved site plan. It does not eliminate the code requirements unless there was a formal plan revision. So pointing back to the certificate of occupancy isn't determinative to your issue here today and what the commission has.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
Yeah, so I'll make a motion to approve the variance with the conditions of approval required by staff as it's outlined in front of us tonight.
Second.
We have a motion, and we have a second. Let's turn to the clerk for a roll call vote on item 8C.
Commissioner Kelly,
No.
Commissioner Turkin,
Yes.
Commissioner Cruz,
Yes.
Commissioner Hay,
Yes.
Vice Mayor, or Mayor Shelton.
Yes.
In a roll call vote, the motion passes 4-1 with Commissioner Kelly dissenting.
Okay, we still need to have public comment on 8D, on the modification of the site plan. We need separate comment, if there's any public comment.
Is there any public comment on item 8D? No? Okay.
I think you have someone, Mayor.
Oh, okay.
Good evening. Thank you for your time. My name is Hagen Gangness. Regarding the matter again, sorry, I was not able to verify every fact that I wanted to. The server for past permits was available last night, but was unavailable all day today. I tried to pull up multiple times the site plan. I would call to question, it appears that the one that they're going off of says a concrete wall down in the lower corner, but if you look to the north of that, it does call out fence. So that might be called into question. I have that one. Sorry.
Yeah, you are on the clock.
Yeah, I'm
Sorry.
Well, anyways, the validity of that, right there. Yep, it says wood fence right there on the site plan they are talking about. Because it seems like there's this underlying current of staff that they want this wall. They are somehow up the bat for this gentleman that is the property owner. So they're just seeing what they want to see. They say, oh, there's a wall there. Well, it calls out a wood fence on that site plan. So where's their comment for that? Yeah.
Please.
Yeah, if you want to speak, get up to the podium, we'll start the clock instead of talking amongst yourselves, sorry.
I don't think we have anyone else. Do we have anyone else for public comment?
There's no one else online, so we're going to close public comment. What would the?
There's a motion to approve the major site plan approval, which is staff is recommending you approve it because those set the conditions of approval for the variance that you just approved.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion and we have a second. Let's turn to the clerk for a roll call vote on item 8D.
Commissioner Kelly,
Yes.
Commissioner Turkin,
Yes.
Commissioner Cruz?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hay?
Yes.
Mayor Shelton?
Yes.
And a roll call vote, the motion passing unanimously.
Thank you very much.
One last thing. I was, with regard to the item that was tabled, I was able to clarify that, yes, you could only serve on one board at a time. However, those two people are alternates who are seeking regular appointment. So I don't know if we want to handle it just at the next meeting since we tabled it?
Yeah.
Next meeting.
Or, okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Let's move on to, because we wanted to quickly discuss the budget dates to discuss, so if
I
everybody.
just want to thank you all very much. This is my first time in your chambers here. You have really great chambers. There are cities local to you that could learn about how this room is set up.
Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
paid you well to say that.
So everybody has the additional document, and this is to, this is for the Tuesday, June 30th, first budget meeting, and then we have the second one scheduled for the 8th and the 9th, correct?
Yes, and that, actually, I should say if needed. Sorry
if
about that. I
needed, of
missed-
course.
Yeah, if needed.
So is everyone here okay with those dates?
Are we doing like an all-day
We're doing
workshop
an
the
all
first
day on
day,
the 30th,
which would
yeah.
be the 30th to
And then
the
we'll meet
Tuesday.
with you guys individually before that, and you
Great.
should have the budget book on the, by the 22nd,
These
23rd.
dates
good.
work well for me.
Perfect.
So all day on Tuesday, and then we're gonna set tentative dates in case we don't finish
For the 8th and 9th.
for the
if needed.
8th and the 9th, and then, just to follow up on our legislative break, we would do that, I guess, I'm assuming after
We
the
would-
9th?
right,
End of
we-
July, beginning of August is kind of what we were shooting for?
Right, we would not
From what I
have the,
recalled.
right, we wouldn't have the July 21st meeting, and we wouldn't have the August 4th meeting, is my understanding, from our discussion. No, we discussed it at the agenda review, due to other conflicts. So that's why we're moving up the budget workshops a little bit sooner. So I think that's, staff, is that your recollection also from Thursday night? That was, is that we wouldn't have that last meeting in July and the first meeting in August. To give it staff,
What's the date of that August meeting?
the 4th, I believe?
Oh, that's perfect.
Bill, there's going to be some additional discussion with some unknown items right now, specifically the property tax legislation that's been in both the House and the Senate. So I expect that it could be a little bit longer than last year, but I still think there's a possibility we could probably get through it if we dedicate one solid day.
Okay.
One more point before we dismiss. Did we decide what we were gonna do about 11F? Do we want to keep that on the future agenda? I don't know if staff reached out to you, Commissioner Cruz. We were kind of cleaning up the future agenda on the agenda
I
review.
saw the agenda review.
Yeah.
I
was when
did
she
reach
had to meet
out
with
to the,
The other one was the staff.
Did anyone from staff reach out to you? Okay, I'll address that.
but thank you for bringing it up. I did reach out to the individuals that wanted to have that meeting. I didn't get a response, so I'm just gonna go ahead and say it's okay to go ahead and remove, F. And then, I think the same thing with,
B. That was
yeah.
the sidewalk, no, the sidewalk one in
Since it's already
Gulfview
been taken care
Harbor.
of through staff and they're no longer building, so I would be okay with removing that as well. Thank you.
Okay, does
On
anyone
items
have?
11B, I'd like to have an update, because, our commissioner-elect is already gone, but I'd like to have an update on that. And then on E, about the future cemetery, I would just hope that he would just take that over, because that's an ongoing item.
Perfect.
I'm 100% certain he's
Yeah.
taking
Gonna
that
take it
over.
over.
Yeah, you have my word.
If
that
you
we
guys
will-
have
we will
one thing in
continue.
common,
Yes,
Will
we
not
have-
drop
we do
off.
have that.
Got one more meeting with you.
Huh?
One more meeting?
Two
with
more.
you?
No, two more. I have
Two more, March.
Two more?
Yeah.
On the 3rd?
March.
And then the
Beginning of March
23rd,
and
Oh, the
then-
23rd, okay.
And the CRA meeting.
and the
Okay.
CRA meeting.
And then on the
Oh,
23rd,
okay, I
I'll be
was
saying
wondering.
Arriba Dirty.
That's right.
That's right.
So they'll be waiting 2 weeks. I got thrown to the wolves
Right.
that first night. Okay.
Oh, I remember.
Does anyone have any final comments? If not, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion
I
to
just
adjourn.
want to, real quick, thank staff, everyone who came to the Marina Village Town Hall yesterday
Yeah.
on their day off.
That's great.
Thank you so much. I know it was a huge success, especially the contrast between how it was the first meeting to how it was yesterday is a big difference. And so it seems like folks are happy, and thanks for taking time away for your families.
Thank you. We have a motion. Did we have a second?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second. All right.
We have a motion to adjourn. We have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
With no further, motion passes unanimously. With no further business discussed, the adjourned at 8:13
Aye.
PM. We're gonna make you wear that at your wedding, Turkin.